More secrecy. That's a commitment I make to you as president.
No more secrecy. That sounds good, and everybody applauded. Transparency is important in government. Government officials get to use force, and they spend our money. We ought to be able to see what they do. But they don't like that. Once in office, even advocates of transparency start keeping stuff secret. Chris Horner's been bumping his head against that problem. He works for the Competitive Enterprise Institute, a think tank that likes to keep its eye on government. And they don't like you snooping around in government when you ask questions?
They don't get the joke any longer when transparency is about them. It was for thee, but not for me, it seems.
So you file Freedom of Information requests. Mm-hmm. Why?
We have a legal right to inspect public records. They're public. As one man said, I'm paying for this microphone. We're paying for all of this government. Well, and our children are paying for all of this government we have. The progressives got one right. We actually have a need for these things.
And that's why there's the Freedom of Information Act. And this was passed during the Vietnam War because Congress was upset that Lyndon Johnson was keeping secrets. And it allows anyone, even a non-citizen, to demand correspondence, documents. And the government can refuse only if it can show there's a national security issue or it's just an irrelevant private matter.
All records are presumed ours because we're the employer, we're the public records. There are 9 exceptions.
Unless there's these 9
exceptions. Personal, private, national security, geologic formations, confidential. I mean, common sense exemptions. But the rest is also common sense. These are our records. And we've proven we need to see them. Not just we have a right, but we need to.
Your book called The Liberal War on Transparency. And as you pointed out, it was the liberals who put these rules in effect. And, you know, frankly, the Boston Globe wrote that President Bush expanded the number of agencies with authority to classify documents as secret, including the EPA and the Agriculture Department. So the Republicans are doing this, not just liberals.
The Nixon fella had a few problems, but otherwise we've got at least 5 left-wing groups that I quote who are actually more concerned about the transparency than the cause, who say Obama is worse than Bush, who they said was the worst ever, or come out right and say Obama's the worst ever. Obama's administration tried with me a national
security. Just to back you up,
exemption.
Salon, the lefty group, says Obama takes Bush's secrecy games a step further. Mm-hmm. And he's rejected more Freedom of Information Act requests than Bush did.
He's also prosecuted more whistleblowers, including as spies, simply because they blew the whistle on software boondoggles and so on, but happened to work for a national security agency. Obama is the worst when it comes to transparency ever. What we know from their behavior is they're hiding things they desperately don't want us to see. Their behavior shows us that. Now, I could capture it in a word.
Don't know that. Maybe they just say you're a busybody, you're their political enemy. They don't want you to have this stuff.
But it is
I don't
my
blame
stuff.
them.
It's I'm paying for this microphone. So you know what? I didn't ask whether they wanted me to see it. I know that these are my records. I like to have them, unless the burden's on them. They can prove I can't. And what they're doing is they're telling us things that aren't true. We're finding out increasingly according to their emails.
And it was the emails that told us about Solyndra and the people who gave money were getting it back. And
who wanted it? Who needed it? They don't want us to see what's going on until the carbon tax is enacted, for example.
The Department of Justice was running an activist website, realclimate.org, which says we're all going to die from global warming, out of a government office.
NASA was doing that, and on their behalf, DOJ filed an affidavit admitting to.
So NASA was doing it.
Right. And I said, I'd like to see what you're doing on my time, because they erased all the date stamps showing that they're actually doing this from the NASA office. And they admitted in an affidavit filed by the Department of Justice, who then shrugged their narrow shoulders and walked on, that, well, we've got an elaborate document destruction operation underway in facial violation of the criminal code. That's why we're not giving you these records. So that was their defense.
And now another defense, trickier defense, I'm told, they use fake names. The head of the EPA, Lisa Jackson, was using a government account under the fake name Richard Windsor. Mm-hmm. He's her dog.
Why the fake name? That's the problem.
The EPA says it created the address so she'd have an email address that wouldn't be flooded with emails from the public.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so why the fake name? Who are you hiding from? Why don't you want people to know these are Lisa Jackson's correspondents?
Because you get tortured. To get anything done, you have to have some private conversations, test some ideas that maybe you don't want out in public.
There's an exemption for that. You don't have to create a fake name.
President Obama was very specific once about how the public should know what government's doing. Here's a clip.
When there's a bill that ends up on my desk as president, you, the public, will have 5 days to look online and find out what's in it before I sign it.
Again, lots of applause for that. And that seems pretty simple. 5 days isn't a lot before he signs the bill, but still that's pretty good. And yet he broke it the first bill he signed.
It was too much, apparently. Not only that, but the hallmark, I'm going to have Obamacare negotiated on C-SPAN. You know where they struck those deals with the drug companies? I reveal for the first time in the book. On AOL. Private servers run out of the White House to hide from us. They're not that into transparency.
Thank you, Chris Horner, for trying to help us find out what's going on. Coming up,